another thing that I really love about Levitz from the get-go, he was he might have been the best writer of women that DC had in the 70s. And one of the best in comics. Like he made, like I've written this in columns before. Like there's a reason why Phantom Girl was always one of my favorites, is because he just knew that character and made her. And Jim, we've talked about written about how in the Archie Legion, like she's intolerable because of the way they've written that relationship. And Levitz just seemed to make all the women better.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, 100%. I haven't gone through. Who knows if they'd be able to pass the Bechdel test today, but but it didn't really matter to a lot of ways because it was interesting. They were they weren't they were characters that had their own agency for the vast majority of situations, and under Levitz, that is. And so I think that was. Sorry. Go ahead, Don.
No, go ahead, Jim.
I'm just finishing my thought. I think it's, they were really, just, and this goes for kind of like all of Legionnaires, really. They're all very much, everybody had their own voice, I guess, is the best way to put it.
But again, I'll go back to this issue that we're looking at. Like, one of the things that really stands out, I think a few of you have mentioned this already, is like, you're getting real personality. Like in 2 or 3 pages, you know who Sunboy is, you know who Wildfire is, you know who Invisible Kid is. Like there's no mystery. And they're all in their own voices and their own, and then that scene with Cosmic Boy and Phantom Girl going like, oh, now he's a tease, and like they're people, and and that's the strength of this, is that these are people that we're reading, and they're all different, which really sort of sets the book out. Whereas, some of the other runs, you kind of go like that word balloon could go to anybody, and it wouldn't be different. So, right now in the rereads, I'm in the middle of the DNA in the Legion, and there's issues where I'm like, I don't know who said that, and I couldn't begin to guess, which is kind of sad. But that's
and DNA is a whole other topic. And by the way, I love a lot of what DNA has done, but it's because of their ingenious plot, not because of their great characterization.
It's funny you mentioned that, Don. So there's, because as everybody here has been talking, right? I've been thinking about 3 things, and Levitz has them here in spades, right? It's world building, characterization, and plot, right? And when you have all 3 of those that make a very distinct, universe full of characters, you get a winner, and which is this. When you only have 2 of the 3, it's it's okay. It's probably an okay book, and it's worth your time. Maybe it could be a coin toss. If you only have 1, you probably don't want to read it, right? But this is like the best that you can get right here.
Yeah, a similar soap opera level, I call it. Steve Englehart, right? A very, very timely writer to mention, with his Wanda and Scarlet Witch getting married and all that. When he wrote the Avengers, he had the multi-tiered stuff, just crazy stuff going on that he'd try to bring together. But again, what were his strengths, right? So for him, for example, his strength was definitely characterization. Plot, not so much, but characterization for sure, but also ideas, concepts, cosmic ideas, right? Like the Celestial Madonna, things like that Englehart would come up with. So Levitz doesn't necessarily have those, almost Jack Kirby type cosmic ideas and mythologies he brings in that I can see. But he's more of a workman, right? He's good at those 3 things you just said, without necessarily being visionary with where he's taking the Legion. That's, other people kind of bring us that kind of thing once in a while. But anyway, by the way, we've run a long time, and I do hope to post this too. So I'm going to try to, I don't know if there's any way to wrap this up. I don't know if there is. But I'm still curious to see what you folks feel, and maybe even compare with other iterations of Legion, of this Earth that he presents. Do you like the way he presents India, for example, and Japan, And do you feel that other writers have done a better or worse job at trying to figure out what Earth would look like in the 30th century?
So I'll go first here real quick because I have an immediate thought. And I guess, and when you look at it from the perspective of 1985, I think it's a good try, right? Because it's very much viewed through a Western lens and all that stuff. But I guess the other thing, though, to me is, and this is something that somebody said earlier, I can't remember who said it earlier, but so I apologize. But in a thousand years from now, I mean, I think some things would be different culturally, even in a different culture. So, I mean, and I know that's a very hard thing to kind of, in a comic book especially, right? It's a hard thing to kind of project and to display and kind of tell that, what that would look like from a world building perspective. So what Levitz is doing here is very much kind of shorthand, which again, fine. I mean, and I've had a really bad attempt at doing this myself, and and it's not easy, right? But so yeah, I'm thinking very specifically of the Asian scene, right? And we don't get a whole lot of information here, but it just the couple frames that you get still seems like, okay, they have the same traditions 1,000 years from now that they do today, and they have kind of a futuristic vision of the cityscape, which is kind of cool. But not much has changed. That said, I do appreciate them pulling in other cultural aspects as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, so I was glad to see like some representation. We're not yellow like that, but good try, I guess. I think nowadays they have a little bit more realistic coloring. But yeah, I mean, this is like a good first step, I think, but what would be better, or what would have been better even back then, based on like reading the letter columns too, is this was on people's radars even back then, right? That the main cast is mostly like they appear to be white, even if they're like from Wynneth or whatever. So I think there's definitely like a good attempt here to kind of expand the world a bit, but it'd be better if they could kind of bring that into the actual Legion, which I think we do see like later on in later iterations. They try to do that a bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with the Academy and that kind of thing, where they try to
Yeah.
bring in different ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jim, you put it best when you said, like, for 1985, this is a good attempt. And 1985, I mean, first of all, we have a United States centric comic that's aimed at selling to Americans, and so they're doing they're doing their best, and yeah, I think culturally the 31st century would be so different. I agree with Gigi. Like, the Legion needs to be far more diverse, and if it's one thing that they could do with the main characters, like the main titles, like you agree, like I agree, like every foreign planet they run into, everybody's white, and you're just like, really, like you couldn't, like there wouldn't be differences everywhere. Um, it's a nice attempt. I think it was good that they made a person of color the president. Like, that's a nice step, especially in 1985. At the end of the day, though, like they didn't really get into much, like outside of, hey, here's their house. Like, we didn't see Rio. We didn't really see China. We just saw, like, here's where they live, and that's the little bits, and they keep coming to clothing. It's much better than, like, I think I remember in the 70s there was one, I think they went to, I want to say Cairo, and it was just like horrible. um, and we won't even talk about. I'm going to say Tyrock because in my brain that's how you pronounce his name, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I mean, we don't want to get into all of that, but I mean, this is a nice step in 1985. I wish they had taken 50 steps further than they have, but that's where we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And we all read Legion.
Given the
Yeah,
whole,
yeah, exactly.
debacle around Pharaoh Lad and everything like that in the 60s, right? And then Tyrock after that. That's
What fun though. This is part of why I started the Legion Club when DC Community was up, is I just love seeing, to me, part of the fun of reading comics from the 60s and 70s and 80s. This is history. I mean, it's hard to think of it that way, but while it may be part of some of our childhoods and teenhoods and stuff, this is in the books. This is decades ago. This is a whole culture that doesn't even exist anymore in the United States, pretty much, that was writing this. And I think it's important. That's why, again, it hurts to hear that certain things haven't been put into compendiums or omnibuses. Yeah, I can't even pronounce that right. But and of course, the heart I have is just, I just want to see all this stuff digitized by DC, right, and have it available again for the history reasons. Although it was mentioned, jihaehae, you were mentioning about the letters pages. We don't see that in digitized comics, which I think is ridiculous. I wish they would.
Agree.
Yeah, drives me crazy.
I got to be honest. I wish they digitized the ads. Like, I understand why they don't do it, but especially in the 70s and 60s, 70s, and 80s, the ads are so crazy.
Yeah, I
And the
agree.
companies are long gone. The companies are long gone. Like, who cares? But part of opening up one of those old comics is hey, I can buy sea monkeys, or hey, I can buy X-ray specs, and yeah, I agree. The letters pages, this is off on a tangent. I don't want to go too far off this. When you mentioned you're not that yellow. I mean, I remember there's a whole line. I don't know if anybody's ever read Master of Kung Fu from the 70s, but there's a letter column writer, a Chinese man, who's writing in almost every month, just can you color this properly? Can you start coloring this? So it looks and
Yeah,
they're
that's the mood.
and they're printing these letters and going we're sorry, Marvel's telling us to color it this way. And the creators are even we can't apologize enough. And the guy every month is can you please fix this? Because that's not how I look. And he kind of changed Marvel coloring because he just kept hammering on this. And I'm that's part of reading these, getting this sense of what was going on.
That's awesome. Well, and
was a
while we're
great
talking
series.
about letter columns and digitizing of comics, let's just a real quick shout out to the 3-boot that only had 2 of them, but did have illustrated letter columns, so they had to digitize them as part of the comic book. So,
well, yeah, and the same as I was saying that the Kevin Oyer's letter being alluded to, we actually do see it digitized because it's not a traditional letter column. It's 2 of the characters from Legion talking about the letters that came in, which is hilarious. So we do get those. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to go ahead and call this to a halt just for fun, just to tempt us to do this again sometime. Drake, again, great idea to have us all get together like this.
this is a lot
obviously,
of fun.
we all love Legion and could do this for the next 3 hours, but maybe we should consider we could do this another time too.